all of the women that come to me, and this was my problem as well, there is massive amounts of stress happening inside of the body, and it's a big energy suck. And a lot of the times, that's where our spark goes. We can handle all the things we do in life, but the spark has dimmed because of the lack of energy production or efficiency of it within our body. Hey there, I'm Bria, and welcome to the Period Whisperer podcast. If you're over 35 and ready for real answers about your hormones, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe and stay with us. Welcome back to the Period Whisperer podcast, the show where we make or try to make perimenopause, hormones, menopause, midlife in general, as simple as we can. And I like to use metaphors. I am really glad you are here. I'm going to start this episode off with a question because we are rounding out the April mini series, midlife reality mini series of what the hell is happening to my body. And today we're really talking about where your spark went when your personality changes, why you feel flat, foggy, and maybe not like yourself anymore. But here's my question. Have you ever looked at your life and thought, why don't I care about anything anymore? Why does everything feel harder than it used to? Where did that version of me go? The one who had energy, who had excitement, who had drive and sex drive. Not sad enough to, call it depression, but not sick enough for answers, but also not you. I understand that feeling a lot. And I've been thinking about how I was there in my own hormonal depths not that long ago. And my clients, when they come to me, this is a very common thing that we're feeling. It's like, I just don't feel like myself and nothing feels exciting. And I don't even feel like getting up off the couch to go see friends or anything. So if your personality feels dimmed, if your brain feels foggy, if your motivation has quietly packed up and left, I'm hoping that this episode feels like you're going to get to exhale for the first time in a while and gives you some clarity and maybe a different perspective. And of course, 5 tips at the very end for you. So let's get one thing straight right out of the gate. This isn't a personality problem if you're feeling this way. It's a physiology problem. You didn't lose your spark. You haven't changed. You can find this version of you again. Your biology is under-resourced if this is how you are feeling, right? And I think it's a really common feeling for us to have in midlife. Sometimes we call it brain fog, sometimes we call it lack of energy, but really, I think we all recognize it in ourselves as like, Eeyore syndrome. Womp womp, doesn't matter anyway. And that gets really old. Sometimes I remember this feeling of like, I'm just sick of myself. Like I remember my kids being like, you're always tired. And was so sick of feeling that way. I had this like edginess around, anyone asking me to do anything, or this feeling of, I'm just looking forward to getting into bed tonight, or in the morning, where I once like popped up and was excited for my day and excited to make progress and excited to make progress on my goals or whatever it is I was going for. I just was like, man, I could just stay in bed all day. What you're feeling, if this is you, is not a lack of discipline, not a lack of gratitude or mindset. I do believe in meditation, but I don't think we can necessarily meditate ourselves back into a spark. It's what happens when your brain doesn't have stable fuel, when your nervous system is overloaded, when your hormones are shifting. Your body is conserving energy instead of creating it, using it. And that flat feeling, that I don't feel like doing anything energy, that's your body saying, we don't have the capacity for anything extra right now. So instead of pushing you forward into your goals and dreams and life and the things that you want, it pulls you inwards. And I think it's important because we often start questioning a lot of things in midlife. And you can be like, is this all there is? Which is a horrible feeling sometimes. But in fact, all of the women that come to me, and this was my problem as well, there is massive amounts of stress happening inside of the body from these things that I talked about, and we're going to walk through them. and it's a big energy suck. And a lot of the times that's where our spark goes. We can handle all the things we do in life, but the spark has dimmed because of the lack of energy production or efficiency of it within our body. So let's connect the dots in a way that I think most of us are not shown as women, with where these areas inside, like these leaks in our energy supply pipeline, are coming that are really having us feel Eeyore and lackluster. So, number one, and you hear us talk about this all the time, blood sugar and its connection to brain energy, right? So I feel like we've been talking a lot about blood sugar. I think, maybe it's my algorithm. I see it everywhere, of course, but, we're all told, we need to balance our blood sugar. We need to eat our 3 meals. We need to eat enough protein, all of these things, and they're important. But blood sugar can become less efficient, as our hormones shift in the body. And of course, if, I just had a client today, if you have certain gut bugs that are off in the gut, you have some that are more inflamed than others, you have certain imbalances in there, you have an overgrowth of microbes, you can become inefficient with your blood sugar just from what's going on in your gut. So nothing to do. You can be eating perfectly, quote unquote, in all of your meals, eating properly, but your gut is not allowing us to have regular blood sugar. So when it comes to blood sugar regulation and your brain, which is a lot of where our spark kind of comes from, that mental joy, right? You have to remember that your brain is an energy hog. So if your blood sugar is spiking and crashing because of how you're eating or because of what's going on in your gut or your hormones, if it is inconsistent, if it is underfueled, and oftentimes I see in GI maps in gut health or gut looking at someone's large intestine, we see an inability to break down and absorb our nutrients. So yet again, you can be eating quote unquote perfectly, but you're just not even getting the nutrients out of that food, which is a horrible feeling. You feel really flat and exhausted. So if you're having any of these blood sugar issues from whatever reason, you will feel foggy. You will feel irritable. You will feel unmotivated. You will feel mentally checked out. And this is not laziness. This is unstable fuel. And it's a fixable thing, but it's a real thing. And if we don't look under the hood, it's hard to find that piece. Number two, estrogen and progesterone impact your feel good chemistry, right? So estrogen supports your serotonin, which is like your mood, your optimism, your motivation, and your dopamine, your drive, your reward, and your excitement. And progesterone supports GABA, which is your calm, safety, nervous system regulation. When these start to shift, or when something is off in our detoxification, in our gut, in our liver, in our gut is where a lot of this, is created, where this conversion actually happens to go up to the neurons, the brain. And when these things start to shift, you will feel, or you might feel less joy, less excitement, more anxiety or flatness, less desire to connect or to go out with your friends, or even on a date night. It's not that you've become a different person. Your brain chemistry has just literally lost some of its key players to spark that joy again. The kind that just came, when your friend would call you in your 20s and be like, I'm going out, let's go. And be all excited and you throw on some clothes and makeup and off you'd go, right? Number three is we have to talk about cortisol, right? That tired but wired and then just tired pattern that we get. At first, we always have to remember that stress, cortisol, makes you feel wired. And in fact, a lot of us have lived for the last decade or even 2 decades riding on our bank account of cortisol because of the way we were taught to work out, the way we were taught to, be calorie deficient forever and ever in a day because of all that was going on in our life, getting pregnant, having babies, having drama, having challenges, moving, starting careers, all of these things. A lot of us have been feeding off of this cortisol drug, and it can make you feel really good. You can feel on top of the world. But then eventually, what happens to all of us, it drops and it makes you feel nothing. It makes you feel flat, detached, checked out because your body says, I literally cannot keep up at this pace. So it completely downshifts. We worry a lot about elevated cortisol. I see a lot of posts about this online, a lot of talk, but oftentimes what I see in labs is not enough cortisol. And that's a lot of where this flat, don't want to get out of bed feeling can come from. And there's free cortisol and there's metabolized cortisol. And this is where we look at it in Dutch to help really understand your adrenal capacity to create cortisol. Number four, to connect these dots, is to remember that metabolic function equals motivation. This is the part that I think can change everything for women if we understand it. Motivation is not just mental. I always thought it was. It's metabolic. If your cells aren't producing energy efficiently, you will not want to work out. You will not want to socialize. You will not want to try new things. You will not want to do anything besides baseline survival. So you don't need a better planner, a better checklist, a better to-do list. You need better energy production. This is where that feeling of like, is this all there is comes in. And I think we whisper this maybe to ourselves, maybe to our sisters or our best friends, but we don't often say it at all. That kind of quiet dissatisfaction that comes, the questioning, the disconnection. Like, why doesn't my life feel as fulfilling anymore? Why don't I want the things I used to want? Why do I just want to stay home? And I think it's important here to recognize that not for everyone, but for many of us in midlife, your kids are now of an age where they don't necessarily need you so much. And so there is more time rattling around in your brain to be able to look at your life and think, is this what I want? And although I think for some people, there are some big lifestyle and life changes that need to be made, whether in your career, maybe in your relationship, but maybe in addressing past trauma. But we want to make sure that we've addressed the energy part, I think, first before we make some major decisions. Maybe not. I mean, maybe not. And here's the truth, though, I think that most people miss. This is not hormonal. This is not emotional. This is a transition. This feeling of like, is this all there is, of pausing and having a little bit more space to think about stuff? This is like a recalibration. It's like a shedding, not a breakdown. It's like a cocoon. There was so much talk at the beginning of this year about, the shedding of the snake and then moving into the fire horse energy. And I've had a few friends call me and be like, when is this fire horse energy coming to the table? And perimenopause really is that shedding, right? Is that opportunity to shed. This is where you have the opportunity for a version of you to be rebuilt, right? Like something significant is shifting in us. We have puberty, we have pregnancy, and then we have perimenopause. And it is a massive hormonal transition, bigger than the other ones, longer than the other ones. And so we are transitioning during this time. And if you can look at it that way, then it can help you, I think, find hope in the flatness a little, like find a strategy in the flatness out of that darkness. Because I think here's the thing that no one is really telling you. You cannot transform while running at full speed for everyone else. This phase of perimenopause, this phase of, is this all there is, often looks like pulling inwards, often looks like needing more rest, questioning everything, losing interest in what used to feel normal. But instead of taking a pause and thinking, okay, what do I need to shift here? What's real for me and what's not? As women, we often panic. We push, we override. But I want you to ask yourself here, what if this isn't the end of your spark? What if it's the reconstruction of it? You're hormonally supported at this point. Like as your hormones downshift and your ovaries retire, you are getting access, assuming all of your metabolics are working, you're getting access to an, this isn't even a word, an unhijacked brain all month long. You've been hormonally hijacked for half of the month, sister. So have I. But when we achieve menopause, as again, the caveat here is we need to make sure that metabolics, the blood sugar, the cortisol, the gut health, we need to make sure that is solid because suddenly you're going to have access to all of your thoughts unhijacked hormonally every single day of every single month of every single year. And that has got to be inspiring for you, right? Where we get to really focus on ourself and our needs and what we want to give back to this world. So I think this is where hope starts to enter the chat because when we run things like functional labs, like a Dutch or a GI map or blood work, what I hear from my clients over and over again is, oh my gosh, this is so validating. It's not in my head. It's not just me not doing enough. Because I will tell you, most of the women that come to me are doing all of the things. Like sometimes we don't even have to do that much work on nutrition because they've already done it. You've already done it. We don't even have to do that much work on fitness because you're walking the 10,000 steps, right? People come to me when they've done the foundations and the foundations are not working. When we run these functional labs, we see nutrient deficiencies, we see cortisol dysregulation, we see low hormone output, we see gut dysfunction impacting these neurotransmitters in our brain, stealing our spark. We see detox pathways backed up. And in other words, your body, my body, has been trying to tell us the truth. And perimenopause gives us the opportunity to pause and start listening. And more importantly, build a strategy because that is available to you. And listen, I think one of the best strategies that you can do, and really what I do with my clients, is to reduce stress coming from inside of the body first. Whether you have big life changes you need to make, you want to switch careers, maybe you want to switch marriages, maybe you want to switch sexualities, whatever it might be, we have to reduce that call to cortisol from inside of you and improve these metabolics so that the brain is firing and you get that spark back. Because when you have that spark, it is so much easier to navigate challenge and change. It is so much easier to have a positive outlook on things. Everyone wants to fix their life when they feel like an Eeyore, want want, or when they don't feel like themselves. But here's the order that actually works. First, reduce stress from inside the body, then create change outside of the body. Because when your physiology is supported properly, suddenly you have that capacity to go on the girls' trip, join the class, have the conversation, go to therapy, read for fun again. And I'm going to remind you, I love a good personal development book. I do a lot of education. It is what makes me feel alive sometimes. But very few women I meet are suffering in the personal development area. They do not need to personally develop. They need to probably pick up a really good fiction novel and just have a good time. Just go through that journey. When your physiology is supported, you can say yes or say no, but not because you're forced to, because you finally have the energy for it. Okay, so we have completed this mini series. We've talked about a lot of things that come up in midlife that are really bugging you, and I hope it was really helpful. But let's make this actionable, especially around the spark, especially around the brain connection. No overwhelm, just momentum for you. So here are 5 steps for you that I'm hoping you can follow, and that I know if you do follow is going to get you through your cocoon phase in perimenopause and out to the other side feeling exactly how you want to feel. So number 1, you hear me say this all the time, stabilize your foundations, right? 3 meals a day, 100 plus grams of protein, 100 to 150 grams of carbohydrates minimum, healthy fats, 25 to 45 grams of fiber, daily walking, consistent sleep window. These are our functional basics. Again, most women who come to me are nailing these and have been nailing them forever. So if that is you, you can move on to step 2. Step 2, pause the overtraining. If your body is flat and exhausted, more workouts are not going to be the answer for you. More intensity is not going to be the answer. Sometimes the most powerful move, and in fact, I will say often, because I don't know a lazy woman. In fact, most of the women I talk to are doing way too much already and not enough of not much. Sometimes the most powerful move is pulling back, rebuilding energy, restoring resilience. This is your CEO power move. It is strategic. It is taking a breath before we react. All of the things that I think we're all trying to do here with things like meditation, with these tips and tools that we hear. It's slowing down to take one step back, which nobody wants to do. I don't like going backwards either, but this will allow us to take three giant leaps forward. Number three, we always want to add minerals. Add minerals and nervous system support. This is one of the simplest things that you can do. Hydration is just not enough anymore. We know no matter where you live, pretty much, especially if you're listening to this podcast in English, then we know you live in a place where our soil is overfarmed and depleted, where our water is polluted, so we filter it. So we are drastically under mineralized than we used to be. We can't even argue it anymore. It's just truth. So we want to be remineralizing our body, even if you aren't working out, even if you don't live in a dry climate like I do. We want to hydrate and we want minerals, sodium, potassium, magnesium, your trace minerals. You know I love my B minerals. If you haven't tried B minerals yet, this is my shameless plug. Please go to bminerals.com, use the discount code BRIA, get their micro boost and their electrolyze, and just drink that for 2 months because that's what you get in your first order. And tell me you don't feel just a little different because I know it'll bring a little bit of that spark back for you. Okay, number 4, get the data. Get the data. If you feel stuck, if you have done these 3 steps that I've already talked about and nothing is changing and you still feel like Eeyore and you still feel like you're questioning your life and your personality and who you are and maybe everything else, and you're annoyed at everyone, stop guessing. Run the labs. Your Dutch is going to tell you, your dried urine test of comprehensive hormones. It is going to give you your sex hormones, your adrenal hormones, your metabolism and detox of those hormones, as well as many other markers that help us understand where you are underfueled properly. AGI map, right, for gut and inflammation. Again, a lot of the stress that you are experiencing that is zapping the life out of your spark is coming from inside. And of course, either an HTMA or real deep functional blood work where we can actually look at your liver enzymes, we can look at your methylation, we can really understand all of your minerals, your iron, the things that have often become depleted through this journey of riding high on that cortisol for a really long time. And also just through going into having to be put into a cocoon and going through this massive transition. Maybe we didn't want this cocoon in perimenopause, but it is something that's going to turn you into a butterfly if you're willing to surrender and accept that. Remember, get the data because clarity creates momentum. One of the most amazing things I see, like my clients are super compliant. They follow through. And it's not necessarily because I'm this amazing coach, but I think it's because I'm able to show them the data of their body, connect it to what's going on. And we can no longer sit on the other side and be like, well, maybe I should do this or maybe I should do that, because suddenly we have in paper from your bodily fluids what's going on. And then you don't have to think, you don't have to have decision fatigue about everything else that's happening around you. You have a plan, it's customized for you. Run the labs. And if you want my help doing that, please reach out to do that. All right, number 5, choose one thing that feels like you. Not productive, not optimized, just you. A walk with a friend, a slow morning, a fiction book, music in the car, saying no without explaining. We don't rebuild our spark through pressure. We rebuild it through capacity and reconnection to ourselves. So pick one thing at least once a week, at least once a week. And don't you roll your eyes at me and tell me you can't do that. I know you can, and it is imperative that you do to find that spark because, sister, you are magic. And that spark is a part of that magic. So go find it. Okay. If this message, if this episode hit you in the chest just a little, or maybe a lot, I want you to hear this. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You are not losing yourself, and you're not just getting older. You're in a phase where your body is asking you for support. And on the other side of this, and really, I should say it's asking you for support so you can evolve, so you can get out of this cocoon and get to the other side, right? On the other side of this is a version of you that has energy again, that feels clear again, that trusts herself again, that lives differently on purpose. So if you are tired of guessing, if you want real answers, if you want a plan that actually works and is customized for your body, this is exactly what I do. We test, we personalize, we rebuild from the inside out. So swipe up, book a free call with me. I am not here to sell you anything. I am just here to see if this is actually going to be helpful for you and to share with you what that looks like. It is a no pressure call. Let's look at your data together. And if you have data and you want someone to read it more thoroughly for you, that is also very possible. Let's get your spark back for real this time so that you can be the butterfly that you deserve to be. Sister, if this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend who's maybe been quietly wondering about where she went. I know you have one. I have them. I try to share my own podcast episodes with my friends. I don't know that they listen so much. I think they're sick of hearing from me. And make sure you're subscribed to The Period Whisperer here on YouTube if you're watching, or on iTunes if you're listening, or on Spotify, or wherever you are, because this is just the beginning of what's possible for you. Now, take this information, go out, be more in your life and not just less on a scale, and we'll catch you in the next episode. If you're 35 plus and ready to stop guessing, start understanding your hormones, and feel your absolute best, hit subscribe. That's what we do here.